And now I wanted to go a little bit more specific and looking for improvement pathways towards sustainability, but addressing specifically biodiversity action in the tourism industry, for example. Here, we have a beautiful picture of Mauritius. It's I think one of the most wonderful places I've seen by image. Sadly enough, I haven't got the chance to visit this beautiful island, but as I have been doing research and studying a little bit about the ecosystems and biodiversity that this island offers, this is definitely a unique place that should be protected and should be conserved as much as possible, not only because it looks beautiful, but also because it brings resilience to the island, resilience to climate change, resilience to local economies, and of course, resilience to the tourism industry that depends so much on, for example, coastal ecosystems for the functioning of hotels and also tours. I also wanted to mention that Mauritius is a biodiversity hotspot, and biodiversity hotspots make up less than 3% of the Earth land surface. And these are referred as regions that are both rich in life, but also they have a very high risk for destruction. So as you can see, being a biodiversity hotspot, Mauritius is definitely a very special area. So here I just wanted to go deeply into the how-to guideline that I briefly explained, particularly for biodiversity. And here we are having actions that could be implemented by hotels and also tourism operators through different areas. We can implement actions that could go internal actions, for example, in business operations. We can implement actions with suppliers. We can implement actions with partnership and with local organizations, and also positive actions with clients. So this is the structure of this improvement guideline that we will provide you. So for example, biodiversity actions internally for tourism operators could be, for example, to ensure that activities are professionally managed in terms of biodiversity protection. For example, we have here the photo of someone diving, and it's important to have people that are professional doing this and guiding tourists to not damage coral reefs, for example, or also forbid tourism activities that actually are harming local flora and fauna. Or, for example, to organize and participate in campaigns to clean up local habitats, for example, as beaches. So these are internal examples of what can be done for tourism operators. With suppliers, tourism operators can also collaborate with local organizations that work in favor of biodiversity protection. Here, for example, this collaboration could be with sustainable artisanal fisheries, for example, or to kind of encourage small enterprises, could be handicraft artists also, to increase their benefits from tourism and sustainable use of biodiversity. So these are, for example, quick actions that could be implemented for tourism operators. In partnership with public and local organizations, here I have the photo of Reef Conservation Mauritius. As you know, Francois Rogers, we had the pleasure to hear from him and speaking about his initiative in Mauritius to help to protect coral reefs. And this is, I think, a very good example of an organization where hotels and also tourism operators can create synergies to create, for example, new tours or offerings from the hotel point of view and collaborate with them to protect these important ecosystems. So we have also here to support tour guides from local communities and help them to provide them with training. That could be also an activity, or work with organizations that incentivize nature-based tourism activities. Let's understand these nature-based tourism activities are activities that that the client is in contact with nature. Could be kayaking, could be trekking, could be rafting, surfing, or hiking, and things like this for the enjoyment of wildlife. So this is important to incentivize not only the awareness of the client to see the beauty of biodiversity, but also to try to support local communities and also protect these important areas. Also, positive biodiversity actions for tourism operators with clients could be, for example, to provide clients with information about existing challenges in the natural environment, as well as how to avoid interactions with the environment that would have negative impacts on ecosystems. For example, as you have seen there was this kind of craze for taking pictures with animals and having selfies, and this is and this is being banned in many countries, or tourists are actually being they have to pay a fine if they're caught taking a selfie with a monkey, for example, or things like this. So there's a need of kind of creating awareness and direction to the tourists on what should not be done in a specific ecosystem. Also, we have here to produce cards illustrating best practices in recreational activities such as trekking or snorkeling. For example, it could be interesting. I've seen the example of having waterproof scuba cards so that you can read about local biodiversity underwater, and that actually enhances the experience of diving for the tourist in knowing right there with your own eyes and the cards what is a specific, let's say, animal or species. We have here also to ensure that trained tour guides are available to help and educate clients about local biodiversity. This could be also applied not only with tourism operators, but also in hotels, for example, on of having, for example, placing of badges and naming of the tree species and guides that are there to really tell you about a particular tree or plant or animal. And also we have here to encourage clients to support local initiatives in favor of biodiversity conservation. They could, for example, include a donation to support. So I spoke a lot about tourism operators, but also hotels can make a lot of impact in the biodiversity challenge. For example, internal actions for hotels could be to train staff to ensure that the natural environment is effectively protected from human disturbance. Another action is to avoid using endangered species for the restaurant menu. For example, IUCN has a red list of species that should not be caught or consumed. And there is actually a website where you can actually scroll down of the endangered fish that should not be consumed, or you can use an app for these kinds of knowledge, so that the restaurants don't actually contribute to biodiversity degradation, for example. Showcase the local culture and biodiversity through photographs or handicrafts and artifacts in the hotel. This is what we mentioned before. This could be, I think, a very interesting potential to explore and to adapt into a hotel. And finally, to plant local native species wherever possible in the hotel landscape, and have the knowledge that alien species or exotic species might actually contribute to degrade local biodiversity. So always trying to plant native species in the hotel gardens. Hotels can also work with suppliers. Here I have a very nice picture from the market. Try to source your food locally and support local communities of the food they produce. I have here also to choose food items that have been, for example, certified by sustainable, fair trade, or organic certification schemes when possible. For example, we have the Marine Stewardship Council, that is one of the most widely internationally recognized certifications, and of course to collaborate with local organization if someone is having kind of a hydroponic production plant so that they can source, for example, greens, then it will be interesting to work with them to source food products in the most sustainable way. We have also here positive actions for hotels in partnership with public authorities and local organizations. Of course, to collaborate with organizations that work in favor of civil society organizations or CSOs, working with local NGOs, as I mentioned now with the example of reef conservation, and to support biodiversity efforts and initiatives with this. Also to partner with local conservation organizations or universities to implement restoration actions of ecologically important areas, such as wetlands, rivers, mangroves, ponds, etc. And here I wanted to just mention here that we have here in the photo a very nice picture from the air, and we can see that there is some structures there that will be probably a hotel. And just I wanted to picture that the hotel is not an end. It's actually embedded in this beautiful landscape of mountains, of rivers, of also mangroves, coral reefs, and all these ecosystems are one of the main reasons of why tourists are in the first place in this area. So if possible, it's very important to collaborate with organizations that support the conservation and restoration of these ecosystems. As we have seen with the oil spill last year, that was a huge environmental disaster, and with more reason, there should be, let's say, kind of more traction and support to protect these ecosystems. And finally, other actions that hotels can do with clients is, of course, talk to them, educate them, try to speak about the biodiversity or the ecosystems that are surrounding the hotel areas, warn customers to avoid interactions with wildlife. I already mentioned about taking selfies with animals, design signboards to inform customers about local biodiversity as well. Incentivize customers to use, for example, coral reef friendly sunscreen products. So I have here this picture of a very happy client feeling that she is contributing to the local biodiversity. And for example, she knows about the oil spillage from last year. So she's actually trying to do something, even though it's small action. If it's scaled up throughout all clients, then you can actually create a positive impact on biodiversity and the protection of coral reefs in this case. And I would say another action will be to offer customers the option to support local initiatives in biodiversity conservation. So these are all of these are examples that are embedded in the how-to guideline for biodiversity. And of course, it has more information. I just grasped some bullet points, but you will have the opportunity of having this document and really explore what you can do and what could inspire your organization to become more biodiversity friendly. And I think that's for now. We are on time, and we can go into the interactive session. We're going to be split it into 4 mixed groups. And Andreas, I don't know if you want to comment something about this how-to guidelines and how can it support the development or the inspiration of the new tourism products or operations that could be embedded in both hotels or tourism operators.
Yes, I think great. Thanks so much, Luis, for presenting this how-to flyers. Basically, where they link in is when you are diving now from the company level down to the product level, you have identified areas where you want to make a difference. Basically, these 4 areas where we develop the how-to flyers, like biodiversity, community development, waste and energy, are very crucial areas that we identified for Mauritius. So if you feel like, what can I do with that? What can I do in these areas? There is a checklist inside. There's a lot of information inside. So just go through it, and it will be an inspiration for you to start from identifying where you want to start and what you want to do. So this is exactly the moment in this project where we are going from vision, from creating something into practice. That's all I want to comment. I feel it's very much connected to what we are doing right now.
Great. And also just to mention that the improvement guidelines that we're going to give you is a beta version. It's not a final version. So part of the of this process is for us, it will be great if we can have your feedback on it. If you think it's useful or not useful, that would be great for us to know. Yes. So